If you purchase the Light Stuff package, you've got the stuff you need to get going. It'll get you started. You'll be able to get out with the bow, get shooting, learn how it shoots. You'll still have to go out there and pick up broadheads and some extra arrows before the season opens probably. You may want the stringing aid in order to put strings on and off, but basically it's all you're going to need to get started. Now the Light Stuff package comes complete with whichever bow you chose. In the package you will find a 4-arrow quiver, the instruction sheet, the DVD. I assume you've already turned on the DVD. If you're hearing me at this point, you've got it. And the rope cocking aid, 4 arrows, a Verizone scope, which is a super quality scope that will adjust to compensate for speeds up to 350 feet per second. A limb set is included. It will be all assembled with the stirrup installed on it. And also a stock assembly and trigger assembly all ready to go. There's also a package in here that contains the rings, the quiver mounting bracket and quiver mounting assemblies, and you'll have to put them on the bow as we go along. The first thing you want to do when it's time to assemble your Light Stuff package is take everything out of the packaging. It makes things a lot easier, and putting it together is going to go a lot faster. Anyway, first thing you want to do is mount your scope. Now, to mount the scope, you take the 2 ring units and mount them. First, take the caps off. Just takes a second to undo the screws. Take the 2 ring units, mount them onto the mounting bar on the scope mount. Generally, the position that works best is the front position. So you want that ring to be on the front half, or the very front mounting position on the scope mount. Your rear position, and this depends on the person because for some people it's different, but rear position for most people will work best on the back position. Once you've got them in place, tighten them. You don't want them coming loose. The accuracy of your bow depends on those rings being good and tight. Now you put the scope onto the rings. Drop it in position. The turret that says up and down, that's your elevation turret, should be at the top side. The windage turret should be on the right side, looking towards the front of the bow. Put the rings in position over top and tighten them down. Now, you don't want to tighten these rings down all on one side and leave a big space on the other. You want them to come down so there's the same amount of space on both sides of the scope. And don't tighten them down immediately all the way down till they're dead tight. Just bring them down till they barely touch the top ring and the scope. That will give you a position so that you can slide the scope around to line up the elevation properly and make sure it's perfectly level with the deck of the bow. Now, at this point, you want to put up the bow and check the scope to see how close or how far away it is for your eye. When you look in the back of the scope, you want to see the full view through the scope. You don't want to just see a little hole with the view in it. So put it up. If the position of the scope is correct, it'll be such that when it comes up, you're immediately seeing the entire view nice and clear in the scope. All right, the scope's in position. I can rotate it. It's fairly snug, but I can move it forwards and backwards. So now is the time to start looking at the quiver bracket. We'll finish up the scope when we get the limbs on. The quiver bracket's quite simple to put on. When you look at the bracket, you will see there's writing on it. It says left hand forward, right hand forward, this side towards crossbow. That's to make sure that you put it in the right position. The lettering goes towards the frame of the bow. When the bracket is tightened down, you cannot find that lettering anywhere. It's completely hidden. And just follow the arrows. If you're right-handed, you want where the arrow is pointed forward to be pointed towards the front of the crossbow. So slide that in position. The screws you use to hold this down are the number 1024, and they are a round head screw. So you do not want to use the countersunk style screws that are made to be used with the quiver mounting block. Finish them off with the wrench that's supplied and lock them down good and tight so they don't vibrate loose. Next, we'll put the mounting block on. Put the two countersunk style screws for the mounting block through the block. Put them through the quiver bracket, and then take the provided acorn nuts and hold them in position. When they're in position, you can put the Allen wrench on and just tighten them down with the Allen wrench through into those countersunk screws. Ready to roll. Quiver brackets in place. Now it's time to put the limbs on. On the bottom of the riser are two ridges that are meant to drop over top of the frame area in order to hold the riser in position perfectly so it can't twist from side to side. When you assemble it, you put those two grooves over top of the frame, hold it in position, then take the provided 5/16 countersunk style machine screw, put it through the aluminum washer that comes with it, goes through the frame, hand tighten it in position, take the second one, same thing, put the washer on, through the frame, hand tighten it. Make sure at this point that you've got the riser pulled back so it's tight against the deck of the bow. You don't want it sitting forward. Take the 3/16 Allen wrench, snug it down. Maybe take a quick double check with your finger. Feel here at the junction between the frame and the deck of the bow to make sure that it's down nice and tight. And if everything's good, lock it down tight. Put lots of pressure on those screws. Once again, you don't want them coming loose. All right, limbs are in position. Scope's there, but it's not set up yet. So we're going to have to set the scope up. First off, you want to set it up so that it is vertical. You want the horizontal crosshair perfectly lined up with your limbs, the vertical crosshair perfectly vertical. So put up the bow, look through the scope. If it's tilted one way or the other, once you've got that perfect position, everything's square, now it's time to tighten it down. Now, just like when you lock down the wheel lugs on a vehicle when you have to change a tire, you're going to have to tighten down these screws on the scope rings in a crosshatch pattern. Don't tighten down all on one side, then all on the other side, or you're just going to twist the scope one way or the other. So take a little bit of a turn on each screw and go crosshatch. Back right, front left. Take a quick look through, make sure it stayed square. Yep, still square. If it's moved at this point, you might have to twist it a little bit again. So crosshatch. Make sure that you're not locking down all the way on one side. You want the gaps to come down even all the way around on those rings. Good. All right, that's it. Now we can finish it off. And that's it. Your scope's locked down tight. It's in position, ready to rock. The only thing you've got left is you're going to have to set the focus. Everybody's eyes are different. When these scopes leave the factory, they can't leave set up for your specific eyes. If you're lucky, when you look through the scope, everything's going to be perfectly crisp for you. But what you want to do is look at something 30 feet away or more, look through the scope, make sure your crosshairs stay nice and crisp, and what you're looking at is nice and crisp. If that's not the case, you're going to have to adjust your focus. Once you've got the crosshairs nice and tight, all you've got to do is hold the locking ring tight, turn the ocular bell to lock it in position, and you're ready to go. Next thing, let's put your quiver on. Quiver mounts into the quiver mounting block. It pulls back, locks in position. Then there is a screw to tighten the quiver down with so it won't slide off with recoil. Take your arrows, put the target tips on, and once your target tips are all in position, you can throw them in the quiver. There are 2 mounting clips on the quiver. It's a great system. It's a very, very good way to hold your arrows and keep them safe when they've got broadheads on. It's especially good if you use mechanical type heads. Anyway, snap down into the 2 mounting clips. Grab the arrow between the 2 clips and pull down and it'll snap in. And that's it. Your bow's all put together, set up, ready to go hunting. So, time to sight it in. If you purchased your light stuff package with a red dot, it's going to be a little bit different to assemble it on the bow. First thing you want to do is open up the scope caps and turn it to number 11. Once the light on the top has been turned to number 11, you can look in. From one side, you will clearly see a bright red dot. That is the side that goes back towards you, the shooter. Now, it's up to you whether you want to move it to the front of the scope mount or the back of the scope mount. I personally prefer a red dot sight fairly far forward. So what I do is I snap it onto the scope mounting groove as far forward as it'll go. Tighten down the 2 mounting screws. Then snug them down good so they don't come loose. And that's it. You're ready to rock. Just remember, turn that light off whenever you're not using it.